Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a movie called St. Trinians. It's actually this British series. This is like the sixth movie in this series, but so I don't know if this one's like a reboot or I don't think it's like a continuation. Apparently it was like the first four movies I'm looking at Wikipedia because I was kind of confused were like a series started all the way in 1954. That's pretty crazy. And then I got a reboot in the 80s, and then there's this one which is from 2007. Yeah, it feels like it's from like, I knew it was the 2000s but I didn't remember what year. And then this one had a sequel, and I'll be watching the sequel as well. That one has David Tennant. So I'd seen this before. It's kind of funny, you know, when you'll sometimes just like go down a rabbit hole of either like certain kind of like movies that are similar, or they're part of a series, or certain actors or whatever, where you're like trying to find all the things therein. Sometimes I do that because I'd been down this rabbit hole before, but I'm starting to add like different movies to it, where I went from watching Another Country and then this movie and then the sequel to this movie, and that was kind of about it. But the reason I ended up doing it again like a couple years later, I recently had watched the movie oh man, what was it? I just made a review of it like earlier this month too. Midnight Summer's Dream. Yeah. I think it's from like 1999 or the 90s. There's like a bunch of those. I know it's one of the 90s ones. Yeah, I watched that. It had a lot of well-known actors in it. I've heard of the story. I'm just giving some context here. We'll get to talk about St. Trinians, I promise. I'm just trying to explain how I got here this time again. But yeah, I watched Midnight Summer's Dream, and the actor, what's his name? And he's on the freaking poster too. Yeah, Rupert Everett. I thought I hadn't heard of him before. I didn't recognize his face when I watched the Midnight Summer's Dream, and then he spoke, and I'm like, oh, it's the guy that plays Prince Charming in Shrek. And I was thinking like, yeah, you know what, that is the kind of voice that fits for that character. I grew up with the Shrek movies. Anyway, so he's one of those actors where it's like I'd heard his voice before for sure, but I hadn't seen his face, and something just kind of clicked where I'm like, okay, I just need to see more of this guy now. So I was looking through and I was like, oh, okay, St. Trinians. I knew he was in Another Country. That one, I'll be honest, it's one of those movies I just watched to like look at the actors, not anything to do with the story. I actually watched that even earlier today, but it is a good movie. He's in that with Colin Firth, but that's a movie from the 80s. So they're both like in their 20s, or probably they look like really young, but they're also together in this movie, St. Trinians. It's kind of funny, actually. I think they even make a reference to Another Country. In this one, there's a line where their characters reunite after not seeing each other for years, and they're talking, and they say something about how they've met before, and they say, what was the line? It was like, another time, another country, and Another Country is literally the title of the other movie they were in together. It's kind of funny, you know, when you'll see like the same actors when they're like in multiple movies together, and in your brain, or at least what I do, is I'll try to connect to see if it's like, what if it's like similar characters or something. Because in Another Country, they play these two, they're like these schoolboys in like the 1930s, and they're like friends. And in this one, they're playing two characters that also had went to college together and then end up becoming lovers. So it's kind of fun. Anyway, this movie, it's a very British movie, not just because it like takes place in a school and stuff, but like all the actors and such. It's a really fun movie. It's a comedy about where St. Trinians is a school for these girls, but it's very like chaotic in that, I mean, the tagline literally is "School can be a riot." That's actually completely accurate. Where there's all these different, they have their own little groups and stuff. There's like nerds and goths and like the preppy ones or whatever. And they kind of, all the girls kind of stick to their own group and stuff, but they all, and instead of learning about like mass and whatever, they learn about crime and having the ability to just kind of do all these things. I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. The first years, for example, are like these younger girls. They build explosives. There's there's a teacher that teaches Spanish, and they're being taught phrases about how to deny things in crime. They end up making their own alcohol, and sometimes instead of being in class, they just smoke and play card games. They're just able to do whatever, and like they are like smart and everything, where they have the skills to do all kinds of stuff. It's pretty crazy, honestly. I guess I feel like she's supposed to be the main protagonist, but I feel like you don't really follow around through much of the movie. Is that there's this new girl, her name's Annabelle Fritton. She's the niece of the headmistress, who's the character that's played by Rupert Everett. And she ends up going to this school, but she's just very much of like a normie compared to everyone else, so she doesn't really fit in at first. Eventually she does. And it starts out just mainly of like her getting used to it. There's like these other schools that like aren't as chaotic in this one that are also involved. And then it's eventually that they find out the school is going to be closed because they don't have enough money. And the second half of the movie is where it gets really interesting, where in order to save the school, they have to enter this like TV quiz show thing, and that's not the way they're planning to earn the money. That's their cover. What they're really trying to do is they're trying to steal the painting girl with a pearl earring. So it just becomes it's like a funny school movie about teen girls for like the first half, and then the second half it just becomes a heist to steal a painting and not get caught. But the whole thing is really fun, but especially that second half. I actually completely forgot that the heist and them having to earn money was like the plot of this one, because I remember a bit the sequel. I mostly just remember that David Tennant's in it, and that it's about trying to find secret treasure and stuff. There's a lot of like well-known actors in this, like since I mentioned about Tenet. Jodie Whittaker's in this one. I've only ever seen her in Doctor Who as the Doctor. This is a movie from like 2007, so she's like she's obviously would be younger here, but also kind of just looks the same. I liked her character. She's not like a major one, she's like the receptionist. She has all these like fun outfits and stuff, and she's always kind of tired at her job because she's always going out like on the weekends partying and stuff. The headmistress character I like. She's pretty cool. She has, like I mentioned, a romance. I forgot to talk about Colin Firth's character. Colin's Firth character is this guy who's like the Minister of Education or something, where he spends part of the movie trying to bring down the school and views it as like this horrible place that kind of just that has like too much chaos going on and stuff. They need to be kind of reined in, and also as an example to other schools. So the first half of for pretty much most of the movie, he's like actually trying to sabotage them, but then he's like spending time there and seeing what the girls are actually like, because it's like chaotic and stuff, but they get so much independence to really explore themselves and their abilities and everything. So I think it's pretty cool, and it looks so fun too, being at this school. Even though people are getting like hurt all the time, there's like a part where this girl ends up dropping someone over over like a stairway or whatever. We don't ever get to see if she's okay. Sometimes the students are exploding stuff, especially the first years. It gets pretty nuts. And then Colin Firth's character ends up falling in love with the headmistress, and then isn't trying to like close down the school or anymore. It's kind of funny because they end up having sex at the end of the movie, and there's all of these like reporters at the end, and they end up seeing him where he's like in front of the window and just like completely like nude or whatever. At that point I think he doesn't care. I think he's also in the sequel as well. I don't know if he's still like the education minister, but I liked his developing relationship with the headmistress character throughout the movie. That was pretty fun, especially because he's like kind of trying to deny his feelings, but like immediately there's tension, like romantic tension between them from the minute they're like reacquainted, because they had like been in college together. But the different cliques in this are really fun. I liked the really like foofy girls. I think we're just called they're called the Posh Toddy clique. Forgot, I wasn't gonna remember that. I had to look on Wikipedia. Where they're the ones. No, they're like the really fancy ones. There's also these like nerds who are good at like surveillance and tech. I mentioned the first three are the ones that deal with explosives. I think the Chavs are the ones that I don't remember if it's them or the Posh Toddy ones. There's like these girls that end up being part of the school challenge thing, where at first they're like cheating because it's like a quiz show, and then they end up having a chat with the school's new English teacher, who's like the other character that's kind of, besides Annabelle, that's like kind of a normie, and then she ends up giving the girls a pep talk of like, hey, you guys are actually really smart, you know, you just aren't realizing it. And then the school ends up winning, which I thought was pretty nice, because it's like they didn't really need to win. It's not like they were in the contest to like earn money or anything. It was literally just supposed to be a cover. They just have the bonus of being able to win. What else? Oh yeah, Stephen Fry's in this. He's the guy in charge of the TV quiz show. His character ends up kind of funny as the quiz show goes on, where Jodie Whittaker's character ends up giving him these pills. They're like red pills and blue pills that she describes as making you go either up or down. And he takes the pills like when they're at a commercial break, and then when he comes back, he's just kind of like all over the place. But it's always nice to see him and stuff. I'm just looking through the list. Most of these actors I don't recognize. Yeah, I don't recognize like anyone else in here actually. I'm trying to think of what else to say. The heist. I feel like heist movies are always kind of fun to watch, especially when they're like kind of flashy. There's a scene that I liked when the girls, I don't remember which clique they're from. There's like a bunch of lasers and they have to kind of dance their way through it. And there's oh gosh, what is the singer's name? Sophie Ellis Bextor. Yeah, she has a song in this. I ended up looking up the song. It's called If I Can't Dance. I'm gonna have to listen to it later because it was pretty good. And that ends up playing when they're going through like these lasers and stuff. That was a pretty fun scene. There was a part that was kind of funny during the heist segment where the girls almost end up getting caught, and the first years they'd been like underground exploding stuff, and then some adults catch them and they have to pretend to be like crying and looking for their mom or whatever, and that ends up saving them from letting everyone else continue. Colin Firth's character has a daughter, but she doesn't go to St. Trinians. She goes to this, I don't know if it's even like a rival school or anything. It's just like a really fancy one. And that's the one where Annabelle was originally from. And the daughter is like this bully that like used to bully Annabelle. They end up having a hockey yeah, they end up playing like hockey or something, and it ends up being really violent, and Saint Trinians ends up winning it, and that was pretty funny. I completely forgot that Russell Brand is in this movie. His character is also kind of funny, where he's like kind of just really shady. He ends up having this really long lesson scene with the girls, where he's trying to get them to name lists of like ways to blackmail people or commit crime or something like that. He ends up being part of the heist stuff too, where he has to pretend to be this like really fancy gay German guy, like to impersonate him, because that's always kind of a thing with heist movies, huh? Eventually one character has to like impersonate someone. And the whole thing with stealing the painting of the girl with the pearl earring isn't to sell it. It is. It's that Russell Brand's character has to pretend to sell it to Annabelle's dad. Oh yeah, Annabelle's dad, I completely forgot about him. He's also played by Rupert Everett. He's such a terrible person, where he doesn't care about the school. He talks a couple times with the headmistress, which is kind of funny because they're played by the same actor. But he talks to the headmistress sometimes about like, hey, because that's his like younger sister and stuff, of hey, your school's gonna close down, and he's trying to like give her solutions, but not really good ones. Eventually he ends up saying how he doesn't even like his daughter or anything. Early on in the movie, she ends up getting really upset because she ends up getting broadcast naked on the internet by the girls in the school while she's like in the shower or something. And she calls her dad and is like, hey, I don't want to be in this hellhole anymore, get me the fuck out of here. And he's pretending to be like watching some kind of reality TV show, and then it cuts to where he actually is, and he's having a party with all these women at his house or whatever. But he gets kind of his just desserts, where Russell Brand's character pretends to sell him girl with a pearl earring, and this is like towards the end, once the girls have actually stolen the painting. And then it turns out he gets a fake that was made by the headmistress, because she's able to paint, is actually shown like earlier in the movie, and I didn't even think about that, where she's like painting this like absolutely beautiful painting of these flowers and stuff. So Annabelle's dad gets sold a fake painting, and then the real painting ends up, because the girls are also trying to like save their reputation as well, like the school's reputation, because it's seen by other people in the Minister of Education as like just being completely nuts and stuff. They end up saying like, hey, we found this painting that was stolen the last night, even though they were the ones that stole it. And then they end up getting a bunch of money as a reward, and then the school's able to be saved, and that's pretty much it. And Annabelle, I didn't even really talk about Annabelle. It's weird because she's like the main character. She starts off where she's like very clearly the protagonist, and then once the heist stuff starts, she isn't really much of a character anymore. Like, she ends up helping, she ends up being crucial to it, but and she does end up winning against her bully, which is pretty nice because they're kind of like rivals throughout the whole thing. But she isn't like the main character where we're like constantly following her around. She eventually becomes one of the girls, which is pretty nice. I feel like visually there's like a nice change to represent that too, where I like this part where the different cliques end up giving her makeovers, and the way the camera is when they're giving the makeups, where it's showing the makeovers, where at first it's Annabelle's POV and the girls are coming towards her with all of this makeup and they're doing stuff to her, and then it shows their perspective where Annabelle, and it's like sped up footage of her where she's in like different hairstyles and clothes to match all the cliques' different aesthetics and stuff, because there's the chavs, the posh toddy, the geeks, the emos, and the first years. That scene was just really fun, but it was kind of funny to me where when it's Annabelle's POV and the way the girls are putting the makeup and to match like where it would be on the camera and stuff, it felt exactly like when you're watching those like makeup ASMR videos. So that was kind of fun. And at first they end up like kidnapping her at that point, and they're like you, there's something we've been wanting to do to you since the beginning, and it sounds like they're gonna like do something horrible to her, and then it's just that they want to give her a makeover. And I think she ends up adopting kind of like the aesthetic and hairstyles and stuff of the Chavs, if I remember right, where she ends up having like her hair really curly, and I don't think she was wearing makeup at the beginning, but she ends up having lipstick, and says after the makeover of like, yeah, I'm one of the girls, I'm one of the St. Trinians girls now, or Trinians, yeah. It's kind of funny because if you look on the all the posters and wait, is Annabelle even on this poster? Yeah, she is. She has the look that they gave her from the makeovers that she gets to keep for like the rest of the movie, and that's like midway through the movie that she ends up having like a wardrobe change and everything, so I find that really funny. But yeah, she's one of the ones with curly, like really curly hair, and she doesn't even look like that for the first half. Actually, the one that's in all of the posters and on the front is the head girl, who's also a cool character. She kind of feels like more like the main character, so I understand where she's the one on the front. I was wondering how old she's supposed to be, or like what is the age range for the school, because like the first years look like they're, you know, as you'd expect, really young. They look like they're maybe like 12 or something, because I know this is like a British school, so I don't know how the schools go. It kind of feels like Hogwarts, where it ranges from like you're like 12 or 13 all the way to when you're like high school senior age or something. But I was wondering about the head girl character. I think her name is was it Kelly? I don't remember. Oh, I just exited on the Wikipedia page. Hold on, where is it? One second, I want to get her name right. I have to look it up now. Cool. Oh yeah, this was originally apparently a comic series. I thought that was kind of interesting. What is your name? Yeah, okay, her name is Kelly. Yeah, her title is being the head girl. There was something about her appearance. I don't know if it was the lipstick or how pale she is or her hair that made me just think of like French women for some reason, even though everyone's British. But she's basically more of like a main character than Annabelle. I hope Annabelle gets like a bigger role in the sequel. I've seen it, like I said, but I don't remember it at all. But I also want to see more of Kelly. But anyway, I was wondering about her because she looks like way older than everyone else, to the point where, because like Russell Brand's character is an adult and he like flirts with her a lot and stuff, and Kelly looks older than everyone else, but she's still like a student, so I don't know. Like she looks like she could be someone in the way she acts, like she should be like a college student instead. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. The soundtrack's also really fun. I feel like I need to go listen to it again, but especially that song that I had mentioned. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm wondering if the sequel, I'm hoping it's good, because the fact that I like barely remember it, and plus it just has the plot of the characters just looking for like treasures sounds like it's probably a worse plot. I'm looking at it on Wikipedia right now. Not oh, okay, Annabelle is she becomes the new head girl. Damn. Okay, so I guess time probably passes, but Kelly is in this. Okay, that's good. Yeah, looks like a lot of the cast is still the same. That's cool. Anyway, I need to go watch that, but I just wanted to mention about this movie because I wasn't originally going to do a review of it, but afterwards I was like, damn, this was really fun. I want to go talk about it. And then once I talked about it, I'm like, oh, I feel like this is one of those comedies where it's like, it's hard for me to talk about because it's just more fun to watch it, and I feel like you better understand it if you like see it for yourself, especially because it's a comedy. But yeah, it's pretty good. Hopefully the sequel holds up. It's like been a while since I've seen these, and then there's another movie I want to watch after those called Cemetery Man, which I have not seen, so we will see how that goes. All right, bye bye.